Dear viewers, welcome to our channel GS Bank Academy. Today I am going to present and discuss JAB accounts paper memory based recall questions from 31 to 50 questions. Already 1 to 30 questions we had already uploaded. Today I am going to discuss 31 to 50 questions of JAB memory based recall questions. This is exam dated 12th December 2020. Recalled questions. Question number 31. What is meant by capital receipts? Capital receipts. Capital receipts are from issue of equity shares or preference shares, capital instruments or any other capital instruments, or for issue of any other bonds or debentures, or sale of disposal of fixed assets, and grants received from Government of India. These are the examples for the capital receipts. Main is equity, issue of equity, preferences, any other capital instruments, and the sale of disposal of fixed assets. Now, capital receipts entries are not routed through balance sheet, P&L. Capital receipts are not routed through P&L. This is going to be routed through either capital or long-term loans or fixed assets. This is about capital receipts. 31. 32. Share premium, security premium can be used for issue of fully paid up beneficiaries. Securities premium can be issued for issue of fully paid up bonus shares or in writing of the preliminary expenditure of the company or for the purchase of its own shares, that is buyback of shares. Buyback of shares also we can utilize securities premium. Bonus shares, writing of preliminary expenditure. In writing of the expenditure, commission paid or discount allowed on any issue of shares. Commission paid or discount allowed on any issue of shares or debentures of the company. In providing for the premium payable on the redemption of any redeemable preference shares or any debentures of the company. So it means premium payable on redemption of preference shares or debentures, we can utilize the securities premium. So in short, securities premium can be utilized for issue of bonus shares, for buyback of shares, for writing of preliminary expenditure, and for utilization of commission paid or discount allowed at the time of issue of shares, and premium payable on redemption of redeemable preference shares or any debentures. This is most important question they are asking in the examination. Question number 33. Representative personal accounts. Representative personal accounts. Accounts which represent a certain person or a group of persons or directly. Accounts which represent a certain person or group of persons directly, indirectly. Okay, examples. Salary outstanding for a group of people. Salary outstanding account for a group of people, that will also represent account of the group. Interest on outstanding account, interest payment is due for a group of account holders, that also their accounts will appear as a group in representative personal account. This is called 33 representative personal account. 34 artificial personal accounts. Artificial personal accounts, accounts of corporates, companies, accounts of institutions that are recognized in percentage in the business dealing, we are recognizing as persons in corporates or institutions. Examples are limited company accounts, any company accounts, bank account, insurance company account if you are opening, or any firm account if you are opening, all will come under artificial accounts, personal accounts. Artificial means created by any law. These are the artificial personal accounts. Then question number 35, going concern concept, very important. It refers to the expectation that the organization will have indefinite life. Whenever you are dealing with any organization, that organization will have indefinite life. Then only we can deal with that organization. This assumption has an importance bearing on how the assets are going to be valued. For at the time of valuation of assets, this is having very importance in valuation of assets. Now, fundamental accounting assumptions are going concern concept. So, under fundamental accounting assumptions, going concern concept is one of the very important assumption. Then afterwards, consistency. Consistency means same method, same system, same procedure they have to follow year after year, and accrual based concept, mercantile concept. Therefore, these are the fundamental accounting assumptions are this. Question number 36. Stock account is related to real accounts. Stock accounts are real accounts. What is the rule for real account? Debit what comes in real accounts. Debit what comes in and credit what goes out. So all the assets in the balance sheet, all the assets are real accounts. In the balance sheet, all the asset side are real accounts. This is question number 36, stock account. 37, this is a calculation of ratios. Current ratio is 2:1. Current ratio is 2:1. Current ratio means current assets divided by current liabilities, 2:1. It means every 1 rupee current liability, 2 rupees are current assets. Then quick assets, quick ratio or asset test ratio, 1.5:1. Every 1 rupee current liability, quick assets are 1.5. What is the difference between current assets and quick assets? Current assets minus stock. Quick assets means current assets minus stock, that is quick assets. Current ratio is 2:1, quick ratio is 1.5:1. Okay, current liabilities are 60,000. What is the amount of stock? This is the exam question. Current liabilities are 60,000. 60,000 is equal to 1. So current assets are 2. 60,000 into 2, 1,20,000. Current liability 1 is equal to 60,000. 2 is equal to how much? 1,20,000 current assets are. Quick assets are 1.5. 1 is equal to 60,000. 1.5 is equal to how much? 90,000. Quick assets are 90,000. Current assets are 1,20,000. The difference between current assets and quick assets is stocks, inventory stocks, 30,000. That is the question. Answer is 30,000. So from this question, current assets minus quick assets is equal to stock. Stock is a illiquid asset. That's why stocks are 30,000. This is about current ratio, quick ratio, current liabilities. This is about question number 37. Question number 38. Creditors turnover ratio. Creditors turnover ratio. Creditors means credit purchases. Amount due on credit purchases, that is creditors turnover ratio. Credit purchases by average sundry creditors. Average sundry creditors means outstanding in the opening, beginning of the year and outstanding at the end of the year divided by 2, you will get average sundry creditors. Credit purchases by average sundry creditors, you will get a creditor turnover ratio in times. Now, question number 39, debtors turnover ratio. This is debtor to credit sales. This is representing the ratio belongs to credit sales. Debtors turnover ratio is equal to credit sales during the year, credit sales divided by average account receivables or debtors. Outstanding amount of average. Average account receivables or debtor is equal opening amount of account receivables and closing amount of account receivables divided by 2. Opening balance plus closing balance divided by 2, you will get average account receivables or debtors. Credit sales by average account receivables or debtors, you will get in time, number of times. Debtor turnover ratio in number of times. Higher the turnover ratio is better. Higher the turnover ratio is better. It indicates the amount of resources tied up with credit sales. Amount of resources tied up with credit sales, and it indicates the efficiency of the firm in converting credit sales into cash. Debtors means credit sales into cash. Higher the turnover means, higher the debtor turnover ratio means low, that is better for collection management, better for the collection management of receivables. Higher the ratio, higher the turnover ratio, debtor turnover ratio indicates debts are being collected, the credit sales are being collected more promptly, more efficiently. So higher the ratio is better. Number one, higher the ratio indicates the credit sales amounts are being collected more promptly and more quickly. That is best. So this is debtors turnover ratio. Higher the debtor turnover ratio is better for prompt and quick collection of debtors under the credit sales. This is question number 39. Question number 40, inventory turnover ratio. Inventory turnover, stock turnover or inventory turnover ratio. Cost of goods sold. Cost of goods sold by average inventory or stock. Cost of goods sold is equal to opening stock plus purchases plus direct expenditure less closing stock. This is about cost of goods. Opening stock you will get from trading account. Purchases you will get the figure from this trading account. Direct expenditure also you will get from trading account, any direct expenditure. Closing stock, trading account, credit side, closing stock. This is opening stock plus purchases plus direct expenditure less closing stock divided by average inventory. Opening stock plus closing stock divided by 2. Opening and closing divided by 2. This is. It indicates the amount invested in financing of raw material and work in progress and finished goods. Higher inventory turnover ratio indicates brisk sales. Higher inventory turnover ratio means sales are high. So amount invested in the stocks are less. Higher inventory turnover ratio indicates brisk sales and amount invested in the stocks are less. So higher inventory turnover ratio is best. It will lead to high sales and amount invested in the stocks are less. So always you will prefer higher inventory turnover ratio. This is question number 40. Question number 41. This is categorization of assets of a company under Companies Act 2013. Categorization of assets as per Companies Act 2013. This is as per Part 1, Schedule 3 of Companies Act 2013. This is very important for the participants, and also you have to know the meaning and presentation of company accounts assets. Now company accounts assets are divided into two parts. One is non-current assets, another one is current assets. As per Part 1, Schedule 3 of Companies Act, company assets are divided into non-current assets and current assets. Non-current assets are again fixed assets. Under fixed assets, tangible, which can be seen and touched. Tangible assets, tangible fixed assets, intangible fixed assets, goodwill, patents, copyright, trademarks, that. Capital work in progress, any land and building, factory under construction, you will note it under capital work in progress. Intangible assets under development, any software is under development, that will come under there. This is part of fixed assets. Tangible, intangible, capital work in progress, intangible assets under development, A fixed assets. B, non-current investments. It indicates investment in long-term investments. Long-term investments, non-current investments. Number C, deferred tax assets. Deferred tax assets, any net difference is there, that amount you will show. And any other non-current assets, then we can show under non-current assets of companies under as per Companies Act, Part 1, Schedule 3. 2. Current assets. What are the current assets? Current investments means short-term investments, realizable investments within 1 year, inventories, stock, trade receivables, means credit sales amount, cash equivalents, other current assets if any. So these 5: current investments, inventories, trade receivables, cash and cash equivalent, other current assets. This is part of current assets. So categorization of assets as per Companies Act 2003, non-current assets and current assets, these two. Again, this is non-current assets types, current assets types. Most important for the participants. 42. What is meant by operation risk? Operation risk definition. Operation risk is defined as the risk of loss resulting. Operation risk arises from inadequate or failed internal process. So our systems and procedures are inadequate for internal process or failed internal process. People frauds, people are also comes under operation risk. As of today, a lot of frauds are taking place. That is because of people and outdated systems and procedures also. And systems failure, system hacking, system non-compliances, and some things may happen from external events also. External hacking of computers, systems, these are things. Operation risk resulting from inadequate or failed internal process, people or system, or from external events also. It includes legal risk, excludes strategic business related risk and reputational risk. This is the definition for operational risk. 43. It is desirable, though not compulsory by law, to prepare final outcome periodically for more particularly. So, the meaning of this question is, companies periodically, at least once in a year, compulsory, they have to prepare their final accounts. Their accounts as on 31st March every year. Accounts means balance sheet, P&L. They have to prepare cash flow statement. To prepare accounts periodically, more particularly by the end of 31st March every year. 44. Validity of BCBDA account. Basic Savings Bank Deposit Account. Validity. Basic Savings Bank Deposit Account validity. Small accounts are valid for a period of 12 months initially. Validity for 12 months. Which may be extended by another 12 months if the person provides proof of having applied for official valid document. So when a persons are getting delay in getting official valid document, till such time they are allowed to open basic savings bank deposit account. Initially 12 months and it can be extended by 12 months. This is the exam question. What is the other related points in the BCBDA account? Deposit of cash at branch as well as at ATM or cash deposit machines. Minimum 4 withdrawals in a month, including ATM withdrawals. This is second point. Total credits in such account not exceeding 1 lakh in the year. Total credit 1 lakh. Maximum balance in the account should not exceed 50,000 rupees. During the year, at any point of time, balance not exceeding 50,000. Total debits by way of withdrawal of cash or transfers not exceeding 10,000 rupees in a month. Total withdrawals not exceeding 10,000 rupees in a month. These are the additional points because in BSBDA account, important question for all the exams. 45. As per Prevention of Money Laundering Act, preservation of records relating to closed accounts, even after closure of the accounts, even after ending of the relationship, 5 years from the date of closure of the account, banks have to preserve the record. As per PMLA Act, after closure of the account also, you have to preserve for 5 years. Now, question number 46, very important. Relationship between bondholder and the company. If a bondholder invested his money in the company, what is the relationship between bondholder and a company? Bondholder is a creditor. Bondholder is a lender to the company. He is a creditor or lender to the company. Bondholders are not having any voting rights. These are just like a lenders or creditors in the company. They are not having any voting rights. These bondholders they are not allowed to participate in the meetings of the company. Additionally, the shareholder is the person who has a share in the company and he is the owner of the company and he is having voting rights in that company. So, shareholders are owners of the company and they are having voting rights in the company. They can participate in the company meetings and having right to vote in that meetings. That is the shareholder. Bondholder only creditor or lender without any voting rights. This is the question number 46. Question number 47. Activities can be outsourced by the bank. Now presently banks are outsourcing some activities. What type of sources, what type of services are outsourced? Marketing activities now banks are doing. Recovery activities also banks are doing outsourcing. What type of services are not outsourced? KYC compliances, audit related audit, bank audit, advances sanction, compliance functions. Banks are not allowed to outsourced. KYC, audit, advances sanction, compliances are not outsourced. 48. How a net worth of the company can be increased? Net worth of the company can be increased by fresh issue of shares to the public, fresh issue of shares to the public, issue of right shares to the existing shareholders, fresh issue of shares to the public, issue of equity shares to the public, issue of right shares to the existing shareholders, and retained profit means whatever the profit they are earning, if they are retaining, they are continuing in the business, that also will help for increasing the net worth. What type of sources not going to increase the net worth? Issue of bonus shares, it is not going to increase the net worth. So, issue of bonus shares are not going to increase the net worth. Issue of bonds and issue of preference shares are not going to increase the net worth of the company. So, net worth of the company cannot increase by issue of bonus shares, by issue of bonds, by issue of preference shares. This question a little bit complicated question. So, you must have practical idea about the company's balance sheet. Under the written down value method, question number 49. Under the written down value method, depreciation calculated at a fixed percentage. At a fixed percentage every year you are calculating on the original cost first year. First year you will calculate the depreciation on the original cost on the first year, and second year onwards on the written down value or diminution value method values we are calculating depreciation. So under the written down value method, depreciation calculated a fixed percentage on original cost during the first year. First year you will calculate on the original cost. Second year onwards we are calculating the depreciation on the written down value method or diminished value method we are calculating. This is called written down value method. Example, cost of machinery is 10 lakh rupees and depreciation is 20%. It is a written down value method or diminishing value method. So, cost of machinery 10 lakhs, depreciation is 20% means depreciation for the first year is 10 lakhs into 20%. 10 lakhs into, this is the original cost. So, first year on the original cost we are calculating depreciation 20%. 10 lakhs into 20, 2 lakhs is the depreciation for the first year. For the second year, depreciation for the second year, 10 lakhs minus depreciation for the first year, 2 lakhs. For the second year, written down value of the machine is 8 lakhs. 8 lakhs into 20%. Second year depreciation is 1,60,000. Second year depreciation is 1,60,000. For the third year, what is the written down value of the machinery? 8 lakhs minus 1,60,000. That is the second year depreciation. So, for the third year, written down value is 6,40,000. 6,40,000 into 20%. So, for the third year, depreciation is 1,28,000. 1 lakh 20. Now what is the definition for the written down value method? First year original cost of machinery we had calculated 10 lakhs into 20, 2 lakhs. And for the second year onwards, written down value method. What is the written down value for the second year? 8 lakhs into 20%. Second year depreciation is 1 lakh 60,000. Third year, what is the written down value method? Written down value 6 lakh 40,000 into 20, 1 lakh 28,000. In this manner, every year, the balance is going to be down based on the depreciation. This is called written down value method. Depreciation calculated first at a fixed percentage on the original cost first year, and on the written down value diminishing value on the second year onwards. This is about question number 14. Question number 50, net present value calculation. This is capital budgeting question. Net present value question. Then example. The examination they had asked to calculate the net present value. I have taken one example. Initial investment is 22,000 rupees. Initial investment 22,000 rupees. Discount rate. The management is accepting a discount, insisting that at least they want 10% rate, that is called discounting rate 10. Cash inflows from the project. After investment of 22,000 rupees, how the cash, the project is generating the cash flows. After first year end, 10,000 we are getting. The project is generating after first year 10,000. Second year end 11,000. Third year end 10,000. This is the income inflow from that project. Now what is the question? What is the net present value from the project? That question we have to calculate at the rate of 10%. Now solution. Solution. Discounting factor for the first year. 10% at the rate of discount. Discounting factor for the first year is equal to 10%. 1 by 1.10. First year discounting factor is 1 by 1.10. You will get to 0.909. First year discounting factor is equal to 1 by 1.10, 0.909. Discounting factor for the second year at the rate of 10% means 1 by 1.10 into 1 by 1.10. 1 by 1.10 into 1 by 1.10, that is 0.826. Otherwise, another way also, take the calculator 1 by 1.10, press is equal to, you will get 0.909. Again press is equal to, you will get for the second year 0.826. Again press is equal to, then you will get discounting factor for the third year 0.751. Again I am repeating. Take calculator 1 by 1.10, press is equal to, you will get 0.909 for the first year. Again press is equal to, you will get second year 0.826. Again press is equal to, you will get 0.751. This is the discounting factor for the first year at the rate of 10% discounting rate 0.909, second year 0.826, third year 0.751. What is the present value of this amount? 10,000 into 0.909, 9,090. Second year 11,000 into 0.826, 9086. Third year 10,000 into 0.751, 7510. Now we are getting 10,000 after 1 year. Now what is the present value of today? 9,090. We are getting 11,000 after end of second year. What is the present value of today? At discounting rate 10%, 9086. We are getting the present value. We are getting inflow 10,000. What is the present value of 3 years? After 3 years means today value is 7510. What is the total present value? 9,090 plus 9,086 plus 7510. Total present value from this project is 25,686. 25,686. Now net present value is equal to total present value, that is 25,686 minus initial investment 20,000. Net present value is equal total present value minus initial investment 22,000. Net present value is 3686 positive. Next present value is 3686. What is the capital budgeting net present value acceptance criteria? Net present value. This net present value more than 0, accept the project. Net present value more than 0, accept the project. So under this case, this project is acceptable. This project is generating net present value of 3686. Other two conditions are decision making or acceptance rule under net present value. Net present value more than 0, accept the project. Net present value less than 0, reject the proposal. Net present value is equivalent to 0, indifference. You may not. So this is about the calculation of net present value. So this type of question they are asking in the examination. This is example I have taken, but actual question they are asked is one net present value calculation. Dear viewers, this is my presentation, and we are updating videos regularly about CAB, JAB and promotional exam also. Please subscribe our YouTube channel and enable notification for JAB, CAB promotional exam classes. Please subscribe to our channel. Thank you very much for all for watching our videos regularly.